This daf is sponsored by Sean Kashani. Thank you for your sponsorship. If you would like to sponsor an Amr or daf, please see the description box below. We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Tes Amud Beis in Meseches Kiddushin. This is Kiddushin Daf 39b. And the previous Amud Rav Yosef said that from the fact that Rav planted different kinds of vegetables in different rows when he was planting in front of his Beis Medrash, so that shows that even in Chutz La'aretz we're makbid on kilayim. And Abaye said back that's not true, it's not evidence. And Abaye explained it would be correct, it would be a proof if the way Rav had planted his garden was as follows: Arba al Arba Ruchos Aruga. Let's say he planted 4 different kinds of vegetables on the 4 different sides of the garden bed. V'yachas be'emtz, and then he planted it one other kind of vegetable in the middle of the garden. Shapir. So then it would be a proof that he was being makbid on kilayim. Elohacha, but over here, mishum noi. Maybe the reason why he was planting it in this fashion, each in a different row, was because of beauty. He wanted it to look nicer. V'inami, or mishum tircha deshamahi, or he wanted to avoid having to bother the attendant who would go and get the vegetables. It would be easy for him to find where each kind of vegetable is. And Rashi explains, Arba midaled ruchos ha'aruga, im hayazorn ba'aruga achas. Let's say he was planting it in one garden, v'nishmor laniach revach beineim, and he made sure that there was space between the different kinds of vegetables, shelo yinku zeh mizeh, that they shouldn't take sustenance one from the other, kimishpatam hashanuya b'Meseches Shabbos, and he would have planted, let's say, in the fashion that is taught in Meseches Shabbos. So then have a shaminon mina, then we would have understood, sha'asr lizroa kilayim b'chutz la'aretz, that it's asr to plant kilayim in chutz la'aretz. Aval hashta Zara kol min ba'aruga levado, but now that he's taking each species and putting it in its own garden bed, so to speak, lav mishum kilayimu, that's not because of kilayim. Ela shelo lahatriach hashamash, that is just an order that the attendant shouldn't be bothered. Shaholech lahavi yerek levakesh min shutzarchlo, now he has to go find the particular species. Now it's easy to find. Bein shar aminim, he doesn't have to find it between the other species. V'yodea be'eza aruga, who he's going to know in which area it's planted. The shama again means the shamish, the attendant, and so that's why in any case Abaye argues it's not a proof from the way that Rav planted his garden. That's not a proof that he was being makbid on kilayim in chutz la'aretz. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Kol ha'osa mitzvah achas, anyone who does one mitzvah, metivin lo, it is good for him, u'ma'arichin lo yamav, and he has length of days, he lives a long life, v'nochel as ha'aretz, and he inherits the land, meaning to say he gets olam haba. V'chol she'eno osa mitzvah achas, and anyone who doesn't do one mitzvah, ein metivin lo, it's not good for him, ve'ein ma'arichin lo yamav, he doesn't have a lengthening of days, ve'eno nochel as ha'aretz, and he does not inherit the land. And Rashi explains, ha'osa mitzvah achas, if a person performs one mitzvah, mefarish b'gemara, this will be explained in the Gemara. Metivin lo, what is metivin lo? Mashma b'haya alma. The implication is that he's going to have good in this world, in olam hazeh, v'nochel es ha'aretz, and he will inherit the land. Rashi says, chaya ha'olam haba, that implies life in the world to come. And the Gemara says, Uramini, we have the following contradiction. Elu devarim shadam ochel peirosein bo'olam hazeh, v'akern kayemes lo l'olam haba. It says in the Mishnah, these are the things that if a person does them, he gets the fruits in this world, but the principle remains for him in the world to come. Elu and they are as follows: kibbud ava'im, ugmilas chasadim, v'achnosas orchim, v'avas shalom ben adam lechavero, honoring one's father and mother, and doing chesed and having guests, and bringing peace between man and his friend. The Talmud Torah connected kulam, and the learning of Torah, that corresponds to all of them. And Rashi says, Elu devarim hanihu de ochel peiros v'akern kayemes. The implication is that it's specifically by these mitzvahs that you have the fruits in this world and the principle remains for the next world. Avol mitzvah achrisi lo, but other mitzvahs that's not true. V'anon tanan, and yet what have we learned in our mission? It seems to be any mitzvah, mitivin lo v'nochel es ha'aretz, that he has good in this world and he inherits the land, he gets olam haba. And so that's a contradiction. Is it only this list of mitzvahs, or does it apply by all mitzvahs? And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda says, Hachi Kamar. This is what we mean to say in our Mishnah. Kala osa mitzvah achas yisera al zechu Yosef. If a person does, any person who does one mitzvah more upon his merits, mitivim lo, so then, in other words, he has a majority of mitzvahs, of good deeds, mitivim lo v'doma k'misha mekayim kol Torah kula. So then he has good, and it's as if he's fulfilled the entire Torah. But the Gemara continues, Mechlal, that implies the Hanach, that when it comes to those mitzvahs that are listed in the Mishnah we quoted above from Meseches Peah, Afilu b'chadanami, that then even if the person just does one mitzvah, even if we're not talking about a situation where he outweighs his bad deeds with good deeds, still he's going to get this kind of a reward where he gets the Peirosein Bo'olam Hazeh and Karen Kayemes Lo Li'olam Haba. And Rashi says, Mechlal dahani afilu chadanami v'afilu lo kayim shar mitzvahs bitmi. Are we saying even if he didn't do other mitzvahs, that doesn't make sense? it's a wonderment. V'aruba avonosu, somebody who has the majority sin is going to get this kind of reward just for doing this one mitzvah. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Shemaya. Rav Shemaya says, Lomer Shem Hoisa Shekula Machras. What the Mishnah in Peah means to say is, let's say the person is exactly equal, he's exactly 50-50, and one of the mitzvahs of his 50% of his good deeds, one of them is one of the mitzvahs that's in this list in Meseches Peah, that's enough to give him this kind of a reward. And Rashi explains, Lomar Shem Hoisa Shekula Machras Hadakatani Elu Devarim, now which we learned in Meseches Peah, the following mitzvahs, B'mechza Avonos U'mechza Zechuyos Kamer, that's somebody who has half, he has 50% sins and 50% merits, V'yesh B'mechza Zechuyos Achas Mi'elu, and among the 50% of merits that he has is one of these mitzvahs, Machras Esakaf, so that takes the scale, and it tilts the scale, Ki'ilu Haveruba Zechuyos, as if he has majority Zechuyos, Ve'enot Sarach L'mitzvah Yiseir, he doesn't even need that extra mitzvah, the masnis, and that extra mitzvah that our Mishnah talks about. But let's say he doesn't have one of these mitzvahs that's listed in Meseches Peah and the Mishnah in Peah, so then he's going to need that extra mitzvah. He's going to need to have a majority of mitzvahs of zechuyos over averos. But the Gemara continues, V'chola osa mitzvah achas yisayra al zechuyosa, but is it really true that anybody who has one mitzvah more in his merits, meaning he has more than 50% of merits, mitivin lo, so then he gets good in this world, is that really true? Uriminu, but we have the following contradiction. We learned in a braysa, kol shezuchuyosa merubin me'avonosa, anybody whose merits is more than his sins, merian lo, on the contrary, bad things happen to him in this world. V'doma kemisha saraf kol haTorah kula, is similar to somebody who burned the entire Torah, v'lo shayr mimena afil he didn't even allow it to remain even one letter. And anybody whose sins are more than his merits, so then he does get good in this world. And it's as if he fulfilled the entire Torah, and he didn't leave even one letter lacking. And Rashi explains, Marian lo, it is bad for him, but Olam has that. What it means to say is that if somebody has more mitzvahs than he has Avera, so then he has bad in this world. Why? L'nakoso me'avonosov, that's a way of cleansing him from his sins. Shayitol schar shalom, that way he'll take a full reward in Olam Haba. And metivin lo l'shalim lo schar mitzvos b'chayv. And on the contrary, let's say a person has majority Averas, that he has good in this world, we want to pay him for any of the mitzvahs that he did in his lifetime, kedei l'tordo, that way he'll be able to be punished in Olam Haba. But that's a contradiction to what we're saying in our Mishnah, where we're saying if he has even one extra mitzvah, so that he has majority of mitzvahs, he gets rewarded in this world. And the Gemara answers, Amar Abaya. Abaya says, Masnisin da'avdin le yom tov v'yom bish. Our Mishnah, that's talking about where we give him one good day or one bad day. And Rashi explains, Masnis, in our Mishnah, the Katani, in our Mishnah where it says, Metivin umarian, it says again, if he has majority of mitzvahs, he gets good. If he has majority of averas, he gets bad. What that means is, Da'avdin le yom tov v'yom bish. We give him a good day, a good bad day, meaning as follows. Misha osa mitzvah yisera, for example, somebody who does an extra mitzvah, to have a ruba zechuya, so he now has a majority of merits. Misaknin lo ba'olam hazeh yom tov shenifroi mimenu avonosav, v'zeu tikun yom tov lo li'olam haba. So then we say we designate one day, that day we pay him back for any of the averos that he has, and that sets up for him a good day. What it means to say is that sets up for him a real olam haba. But that's just one day where we take care of his averos and we allow him to go to olam haba. V'chol sha'avonosav merubin, and anybody who has a majority of sins, the katani merian lo, there it says we do bad for him. Hainu da'avdin le hazmonas yom bish. What that means is we prepare things for him. So again, in olam haba he's going to have bad. Meaning to say, shemishalman lo schar mitzvos, if we have one day where we pay him back for his mitzvahs, kan over here, lios mesukan lo yom ra, that way we prepare for him, that'll have a yom ra. That's all that our Mishnah means. And the Gemara continues with a second answer. Rava Amar, Rava says, Hamani Rabbi Yaakovi. Who's the author of the Brisa that says if a person has majority of mitzvahs, he actually gets punished in this world? It's the Tana Rabbi Yaakov. The Amar Schar Mitzvah B'Hayol Molek. Rabbi Yaakov says that there is no reward for mitzvahs in this world. And Rashi explains, Rava Amar, Rava says, Liolam Kid'amar Meikara. Really, it's like we said originally. Our Mishnah means, Metivin lo b'schar peiros v'akern kayemes. He's rewarded. Let's say he has majority mitzvahs. He gets peiros in this world, and the principle remains for him in the next world. V'achmas nisa de katani merian lo. In the Brisa, which says he gets bad in this world, and all of the reward is waiting in Olam Haba, Rabbi Yaakov. That follows the opinion of Rabbi Yaakov again, who says there's no reward for mitzvahs in this world. The Tanya, as we learned in a Brayso, Rabbi Yaakov says, Ein loch kol mitzvah sheksuva b'Torah. There's no mitzvah written in the Torah, shematan schara b'tzida, where we find the reward written next to the mitzvah, she'ein tchias hamesim teluya ba, which isn't dependent on tchias hamesim. Meaning to say, the real reward is tchias hamesim. The real reward is going to be olam haba. And Rabbi Yaakov explains, "B'kibud avayim ksiv," by the mitzvah of kibud avayim, it's written, "L'man yarichon yamecha l'man yitav lach," in order to have long days and to be good for you. And b'shiluach hakan ksiv, by the sending out of the mother bird, by that mitzvah it's written, "L'man yitav lach v'arachta yamim," in order that it's good for you to have long days. And so Rabbi Yaakov explains, Haresha Amar lo Aviv, let's say his father says to him, Alei lebira v'haveli gozalos, go up to the top of the building and bring me young birds. V'ala lebira, and he goes up to the top of the building. V'shilach esaim, he sends away the mother. V'nadal esabanim, and he takes the children, meaning to say he fulfills the mitzvah of shiluach hakan. Uv'chaziraso, and then as he is returning, nafal v'meis, he falls and he dies. Heichan tovas yamav shalzeh, so where's the reward of this person? Where are the good days that this person has in this world? And this person just died. Where is his lengthening of days? Where is his long life? And so therefore Rabbi Yaakov says, because of that example, obviously we're not interpreting what the Torah is saying correctly. Ella, rather, l'man yitav lach. What does it mean, l'man yitav lach? La'olam shekulo tov. It means in a world where everything is good. It's talking about olam haba. Well, l'man yarichon yamecha. And what does it mean when it says l'man yarichon yamecha? Li'olam shekulo arach. It's talking about the world that is full of long days. Meaning again, it's all referring to olam haba. The pasuk is not referring to reward in this world. But the Gemara continues, V'dilma lav hachi hava. The Gemara asks, maybe that's not what happens. What kind of proof is Rabbi Yaakov bringing from a situation where a person does a mitzvah and he instantly dies? Maybe there was no such episode that ever happened. How could Rabbi Yaakov bring a proof from something that may never have happened? And the Gemara says, Rabbi Yaakov ma'isa chaza. Rabbi Yaakov actually saw this happen. He saw this incident. And that's why he said, from the fact that he saw it, he said it must be the Torah is not talking about reward in this world. It must be the Torah is talking about reward in the world to come. But the Gemara says, how does Rabbi Yaakov know exactly what he saw? V'dilma maharer ba'aveira hava. Maybe while the person was doing this mitzvah of shiluach hakan, he was thinking about aveiras, and maybe that's why he was punished. The Gemara says, machshava ra, just because a person has a bad thought, ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa l'maisa. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not going to attach that thought to the deed. It would not affect the person in this manner. But the Gemara continues, V'dilma maharer ba'avodas kochavim hava. Maybe the person wasn't just thinking of aveira. Maybe he was even thinking of avodah zarah. That already he would be punished for. Uchsiv, because it's written, L'man tfoses beis Yisrael b'libam. Again, what the Klal Yisrael does in their hearts when it comes to avodah zarah, they can be held accountable for. And the Gemara says, "Iu nami hachi kamar." No, that's exactly what Rabbi Yaakov was saying. That's exactly what he was saying. Isalka daitach schar mitzvah b'hayalma. If you think to say that there is reward for mitzvahs in this world, amaylo agin mitzvah salei ki hechi to lo leisi lidehirher. So then the mitzvah should have protected him, that he shouldn't have come to be thinking about avodah zarah. The fact that he was even thinking about avodah zarah, that shows there was no reward in this world. The mitzvah was not protecting him. But the Gemara continues, V'amar Rabbi Elazar, but didn't Rabbi Elazar say, Shluchei mitzvah eini zoken, that people who are on their way to do a mitzvah, they're not damaged. And so again, if this person is doing the mitzvah shiluach hakan, how could he get damaged? And the Gemara says, no, Hasam over there, Bahali Chosan Shani. There it's different. It's talking about where they're going to do a mitzvah. Here the person was returning from a mitzvah. That's why this person ended up getting killed while he was returning. But the Gemara says, V'amar Rabbi Elazar, but didn't Rabbi Elazar say, Shluchei mitzvah einon nizoken, that Shluchei mitzvah do not get damaged, Lo Bahali Chosan, V'lo B'chazirasan, they don't get damaged going to the mitzvah or returning. So again, even when he was returning from the mitzvah Shiluach Hakan, how could he get damaged? And the Gemara says, Sulam Ru'u Ahavit was a rickety ladder. The Kviya Hezeka, that's a situation where Hezek, where damage is something that is easy to come, it's something that is common. V'chol Heichad the Kviya Hezeka, anytime you're in a situation where damage is established, Lo Samchin Anisa. So in that situation, we do not rely on miracles. And so in this case, even though he was returning from doing a mitzvah, but since he put himself in a dangerous situation, that's why he ended up getting damaged. And the Gemara says, D'chsiv, as it's written, Vayomer Shmuel, that Shmuel said, Eich Elech, how can I go? V'shama Shol v'hargani, and Shol's going to hear, and he's going to kill me. Why was Shmuel worried? Shouldn't the mitzvah have protected him? And the answer is the same answer. This was a situation where the danger is common, where it makes sense that the person might get damaged, and in such a situation, we do not rely on miracles. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Yosef says, Ilmoli dorshei acher lahaikra, had Acher, that refers to Elisha ben Avuya, who sinned, if he had darshan this pasuk, Rabbi Yaakov bar Barate, like Rabbi Yaakov, the son of his daughter, meaning to say, when it says in the pasuk Laman Yitav Loch, he understood that it means a good life in Olam Hazeh. But had he darshan like Rabbi Yaakov, the son of his daughter, meaning like Rabbi Yaakov, who says that you understand Laman Yitav Loch to mean the reward is in Olam Haba, so lo chata, so then he would not have sinned. The only reason that Acher sinned was because he thought that the reward should be in this world, and he didn't witness that, and therefore he went and sinned. And the Gemara now explains, V'acher, Mahu by Acher, what exactly happened? What did he see that caused him to sin? Ika Amri, there are those that say, Ki Hagavna Chaza, he saw exactly this kind of a story, like Rabbi Yaakov saw. He saw a situation where a person performed the mitzvah like Shiluach Hakan, and he was punished, and therefore Acher said that it's okay to do an Aveira. You see that this person was not rewarded for his mitzvah. V'ika Amri, and there are others who say, Lishna de Chutzbis HaMeturgaman, he saw the tongue of Chutzbis, the disseminator, Chaza, he saw the Havigorer Le Davar Acher, that it was being dragged by a Davar Acher, meaning to say it was being dragged by a pig through the street. Amar, he said, Pesha Hepik Margalios, this mouth which brought forth pearls, meaning pearls of wisdom, Yelache Chafer, now it licks the dirt. And so again, he saw that this individual, he was not rewarded. On the contrary, he was punished in this world, and therefore Nafak, he went out, Chata, and he sinned. And Rashi explains, Ilmole Darshe Acher L'Haikra, had Acher darshan this pasuk of the Laman Yitavlach, this pasuk of Laman Yitavlach, had he understood Ba'olam Haba, that it's talking about Olam Haba, Lo Chata, he wouldn't have sinned. Diyu Nami Ki Agavna Chaza, because he also saw a situation like this, where somebody did a mitzvah and ended up getting punished. Amar, he said, Ein Schar Ba'olam, there is no reward in the world, V'yatzal Atar B'sra, and that's why he sinned. Davar Acher refers to a chazir, a pig, as we said. And the Gemara continues, Rami Rav Tuvi bar Rav Kisna l'Rava, Rav Tuvi bar Rav Kisna had the following contradiction for Rava. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Kolosa mitzvah achas metivin lo, anyone who does one mitzvah, it's good for him. So asa in lo, asa lo, it sounds like he has to actually do the mitzvah. If he doesn't do a mitzvah, so then he won't get this reward. Uramini, but we have the following contradiction. It says in the Braisa, Yashav lo avar aveira, let's say a person sits and just doesn't do an aveira. He's not actively doing a mitzvah, he's just refraining from an aveira. Nos nim lo schar ka'os a mitzvah, so then he gets rewarded, as if he did a mitzvah. That seems to contradict what we said in the Mishnah. Amar Lei, so he said to him, Hasam over there, meaning in that case where it says that if the person refrains from an Aveira, it's like doing a mitzvah. Kagon Shabbat Devar Aveira Liyado V'nitzol Hemena. That's talking about an Aveira presents itself to the person and he is saved from it. And Rashi says, Hasam Shabbat Dvar Aveira Liyado Ahu Yashav Lo Avar Aveira Dekamar. When it says the person is sitting and doesn't do an Aveira, note schar that he gets rewarded. Ba Aveira Shabbat Liyado V'kafa Yitzro. We're talking about an Aveira comes to him, presents itself to him, and he overcomes his Yetzer Hara, V'lo Avar, and he doesn't transgress. Ein mitzvah Yisera Mizu. There is no greater mitzvah than this. And the Gemara continues, Kihad Rabbi Chanina bar Papi, it's like the incident with Rabbi Chanina bar Papi. Tavate ahi matronisa, a particular noble woman enticed him. She enticed him for znus. Amar Milsi said a particular thing, meaning he said an incantation. Umali nafshe shichna v'kiba, and his body was filled with boils and scabs. In other words, it made him not desirable. Avda he Milsa, so she also said an incantation. Vitasi, and he was healed. Arak, so he ran away. Tashabu be'bani, and he hid in a particular bathhouse. Tachiyava island betrayin afilu b'yamama. That bathhouse was so dangerous that generally when you would enter with two people, even in the middle of the day, have a mitzaki, a person would be damaged by the demons that were in that bathhouse, but nevertheless he survived. L'mocher, the next day, Amrule Rabbanan, the Rabbanan said to him, Man Natrach, who's the one that protected you when you were in that bathhouse? Amar Lui said to them, Shnei, there were two, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Mem Amud Aleph.